Well, welcome into Rugby Direct, a special episode for you today. We are joined by the All Blacks coach Scott Robertson and New Zealand Rugby Chief Executive Mark Robinson. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being on Rugby Direct.
See you guys. Thanks for having us. Good to be here.
Had a good break? Good summer? Ready to go for 2025?
Yep, summered well, thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Got around New Zealand a little bit. Spent some time with family and friends, hadn't seen for a while. So, like all good Kiwi summers, it was spent recharging the batteries and that sort of thing. So, good times.
Let's talk a bit about, I guess, your relationship, because you both played together way back when for the Crusaders. Then you were a Super Rugby coach to NZR CEO, and now All Blacks coach to NZR CEO. How have your relationship, I guess, developed over time, over the last 25 plus years that you've known each other?
Well, yeah, we met probably, like you say, in the late 90s. Razor was already in Christchurch from memory, and I'd come home from England. I was studying over there to Canterbury and the Crusaders. So we sort of started knocking around back then. And my vivid memories of Razor back then was obviously, aside from a great player, even back then, he was carrying a coaching a playbook around, was highly engaged in tactics and the game itself and that sort of thing. So it was no great surprise, I guess, as time has eventuated, that he's ended up where he has. Even then, he had a real keen interest in the game and the tactical side. Me less so. I was sort of more engaged at that time around things that were happening around our environment and wider issues around rugby and that sort of thing. But yeah, we shared some great memories. Obviously fortunate to play in a really successful era with great coaches and teammates and that sort of thing. And then we probably went for a few years where Ray's was off doing his thing and I was, and it wasn't until a little while ago where we sort of started reconnecting up for obvious reasons. So, did things in France and Japan, and I was in different parts of the world. So, but yeah, I mean, once you play together and spend time together, you always retain a connection of sorts. And so it's been really neat working together in the last little while and getting to spend more time together.
Scott, any good tales and memories from the playing days, pre-season, on the field, off the field?
Let's stay on field, eh?
Yeah, fair.
I think I just remember Robert was a astute rugby player. He knew the game. He always kept his feet in the tackle, so he always running off his shoulder. He always had a little offload on him. So he said a few. He didn't score too many, but but there's a few assists. It was a great times playing, and now it's opportunity for us to give back to the game and our roles. And like we said, we're quite worldly, been around, played overseas, and you come back to do a role that we're doing so passionately, and for our country, it's a real honour.
Rosa, what have you made of the start to Super Rugby 2025 this year?
Oh yeah, how good! I think everyone's talking about it anywhere you go. Just the quality of football, the skill sets, the young players that are coming through. Teams, there's a bit of jeopardy. Anyone can win. And I just think shape of the game, the ball and play and all around the world is really high. But Super Rugby's been great to watch, and enjoyed it as from a coaching point of view, selection point of view, but also just as viewership. You're really entertained.
It's early doors, obviously. We're 4 rounds in, but I think you had 10 new All Blacks in your first year. Anyone catching your eye at this early stage?
Yeah, there is. There always is. Look, if I start getting names, or that's what I've learned. You get in trouble if you make suggestions. But look, there's always, I think, some guys that have had their first supers or second supers have really stood up. They've had opportunities. Been a couple of injuries. They've taken that. They've got regular game time, and they're playing some fearless footy. And because every game is tight, you see them under pressure as well, and just really enjoying the skill sets and bravery.
Mark, we've talked a bit about the changes to Super Rugby over the last 4 or 5 years. How exciting for you in your role that Super Rugby has got off to a hiss and a roar this year?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things coming to fruition, aren't there, that we've talked about for a little while. One was, as Razor said, the shape of the game and the work we've done there. And he and I were in London recently at some of those big global meetings, and really, really positive to hear the recognition of the leadership work we've taken there starting to bear fruit. So that's one great thing. Clearly, the Australian teams are highly competitive, and that's creating jeopardy, as Razor's mentioned, and real uncertainty in results. And then I think combined, we've seen the commission be able to stand up and in a relatively short amount of time, as we've always said, have a real dedicated focus on the competition. And in terms of the way it's packaged, branded, communicated, there's been some real improvements there. And I mean, how good's fantasy footy, I mean, I'm sure you guys are chipping away at it. You're sitting on the rankings, boys.
Has your selection criteria?
I was about to ask you, Razor. I hear you're in the fantasy. Who's in your team?
Oh, look, we got an email about 3 days beforehand. My 3 sons are at it and chipping away at me and asking. They said, you're not allowed to do it. Obviously, there's a bit of inside trading going on. We're doing it, so I'm banned.
Yeah, we're all, it's got to be straight down the line here, integrity unit and all that. So
it has been really good for the competition, though.
Yeah,
the discussions and we've seen it in the NRL in the past, but just being able to talk about with your colleagues, your friends, about who's in your team, who's out, and I'm sure you guys have had discussions about it, even though you're not allowed to play, just how it's sort of changed the dynamics a little bit of the competition.
Yeah, it gives you a higher buy-in, doesn't it? You actually got a bit of skin, doesn't it? Because you back your players in your team and you're looking at your phone watching rugby. It's all of a sudden people are looking up and checking scores. It's live, and just that's where our game is, the entertainment part, and it's just another layer in engaging with people.
If we get into some hot topics, eligibility is a big one. There's been an evolution over time. We all know that you currently can't select All Blacks from offshore. There's the sabbatical options. Where do you both sit currently about the eligibility stance, and where do you see it getting to in the next few years?
Yeah, well, we're really clear as an organisation, and there's been a lot of, as you say, speculation and talk about it, but through all of that, we've been really firm that it's been a big part of the success of New Zealand Rugby and the All Blacks for some time. It is a key sort of incentive for players to remain here, and it is something that is also important for the wider pathways and development of the game here. So, look, it's right. It's an area where there's always probably going to be, a degree of scrutiny, as there is for many areas of the game. And it's great, there's passion and interest in the game. But for us, we've been able to, for a long period of time, retain the vast majority of players we've been wanting to retain. And then, obviously, in the last little while, there's been, as you said, within the policy, there's the tools and flexibility to be creative where we need to recognise some of those long-term servants that have given so much to the game and be able to give back while retaining them, longer term with the All Blacks in New Zealand Rugby. So overall, we'll always be open to sort of looking at it in the future, but at the moment, we're pretty firm and supportive of it.
Razor, you've obviously been. One of your lines has been keep an open mind. Where are you at the moment with this eligibility saga?
Yeah, look, I had a year, so I said I have a year to look at it and where I stand. And the first thing is, my intentions for the comment was, is it fit for purpose still? Currently in this model, where we're sitting, globally and internally, one of my jobs is to make sure that the pathways are strong so we can keep a continued flow of quality players, enjoy the game, and also want to come through and be professional rugby players. And aspiration. So we'll talk a little bit later on around the pathway stuff that we're doing. But look, I understand how important it is, and now I'm probably got more insight around the flexibility there is in the current regulations. It is fit for purpose. There is a little bit of flexibility there, and I just want to sort of give you an example. An open mind is someone like a Geordie Barrett. Traditionally we've gone to Japan to play. And when Geordie came and said, I've got an option for Leinster and an opportunity, we zoomed in, we talked through all the practicalities. What would his season look like going north? Is it going to make him a better player? And once we'd listened and, he'd had majority of the Six Nations off, he'd had a break, he'd been well coached. Like I just had a catch up with Jacques Napier when I was over there. And talked and sat down with him, and just how impressed he was as a player, as a man, how hard he worked on and off the field. They were just incredibly impressed. We touched base with him. He's an on-field coach too, Geordie, so he'll be learning on and off the field. And that's a prime example of keeping an open mind. Someone like himself going north, okay, great. We're in a position now where he'll come back as a better player, and ultimately that's what we want out of this. And he's just one example, potentially more to come.
Do you see more potentially of those sort of deals happening in the future?
Yeah. Look, it's worked. If the essence is, we're still keeping the integrity of all our pathway programs. So a guy doesn't go away and play, and we're picking people from overseas. They've earned the opportunity, they've been loyal, they've done their time, they get to go away and then come back, and he'll come back and, he'll be a coach at the Canes again, as he is. He's a great player coach, as we know, and other players, where they sit in their career, they have that opportunity too as well.
Because you look at South Africa, obviously, and they can pick whoever they want, whenever they want. That wouldn't work for the All Blacks, you don't think?
Well, one sort of thing I've learned and talked through it, and you look at these stats, and it suits their model. It suits their model for them where they currently are, if, financially, where they sit with their current competitions, in their players. So that this model for us, we're in great shape. We've got a great group of loyal All Blacks, and super players that want to be All Blacks, and young kids that want to be All Blacks and know that they're playing our country to get that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to focus, guys, on what we think's best for New Zealand rugby, don't we? And there's always, that's the beauty of the sport. There's always comparisons and analysis as to different models, but we fundamentally believe this can work for New Zealand rugby, and we are retaining the majority of players. And whilst we might not have all the resource and all the money compared to some markets, we're working really hard on our environments, great coaching environments, great competitions, got burgeoning competitions that are going to get better and better. Great 5-year calendar coming up in terms of what's possible around rugby in this part of the world with the Lions tours, the South Africa All Blacks concept. And we think Super Rugby is going to get better and better. So focusing really hard on always keeping a little bit of an eye on what's going on around the world, but focusing really hard on what we're doing as well.
You mentioned the Geordie Barrett example. I guess another one who you don't have access to, Richie Mo'unga, world class 10. You know him well. I think you both went up to Japan to meet with him at the back end of last year. I don't know the nature of those conversations, but obviously there was a desire to bring him home early. Why did he not come home early? Was it as simple as couldn't reach terms with Toshiba financially, or?
There's a lot of speculation around that last year, wasn't there, Liam? So, look, I think clearly people understand there was some conversations through last year, but ultimately, Richie's made a decision to work through to the obligations under his contract. We respect that. And we're moving forward. As we say, we're really clear on our eligibility rules, and we certainly always respect players that have left the All Blacks and are playing offshore, and there's always a degree of contact that happens, but that's good coaches and good people doing their jobs properly, and that happens at a lot of levels. That happens with players that are very much past their playing careers, and that's just the nature of the All Black environment and the All Black family. So hey, look, we're clearly moving forward and got a lot of belief in the people coming through and the protocols we've got in place.
Scott, do you still hope Richie will come back next year when his contract finishes and push for a place in the 2027 World Cup?
Yeah, look, all players, if you want all your best players available, that's what it takes to win a Rugby World Cup, and you keep connected with all of them. Doesn't matter and where they're at. You still get message from the old players now and again, checking in and making sure. Sam Kane. It's at his time, but he's a prime example. He checks in and making sure everything's right in the off season. But yeah, you just want your best players.
We saw Beauden Barrett and Damien McKenzie last year have that 10 jersey. How important are they in this next 3 years for you as a All Blacks coach?
Oh, critical. Look, D-Mac, what a year that he had, gave him plenty of opportunity. Just his ability to control the game with his boot. I think the Irish game, how good was that? The week before he came on and kicked the ball from the sideline to England to change the match, and then he owned that game against Ireland, and got picked in the World 15 as a 10, and so his impact off the bench, his match management, his ability to lead the team's been incredible, and you've got Beauden, who's just evergreen, just keeps going, and so classy, just got so much time, knows the game, knows the kicking game, been awesome for us coaches. He's been great off field, so both of them complement each other really well, and because they can play 10 and 15, and both have great impacts off the bench, are really, really valuable to us. Yeah.
I think D-Mac's off contract this year. You're going down to the Tron and, I don't know, offering him a racehorse or something. Keep him in the country.
May all offer him any. Oh, look, he's a line breaker. He's got that special ability to do something others don't. Yeah, with every intention, and we'll work as hard as we possibly can. And to have a player like him, he's in that peak of his powers at 29. He's learnt so much. He's mature, and for sure, we're on him. Yeah.
Razor, how would you look back at your first year in charge last year in 2024? I'm sure you had a few thoughts about that over summer. How do you look back now where we sit here in March?
Yeah, plenty of views and more interrogations. I look from a personal point of view and a team point of view. Like, I think you only learn by doing, really. Otherwise, you're just reading, aren't you? Until you actually put your hands to it and your feet to it, and you actually take a step forward to the moment. So all the preparation I'd done coaching before got you to that point, but then it's the people in front of you and your environment and your group and what that needs. So statistically, it's like we made the most line breaks, most defenders beaten, most offloads and most carries in World Rugby. So it was some incredible stats. We got better and better as our game understanding and the calls, and we embedded it through the year. But we just didn't quite execute and finish enough. There was 3 games that had 1 scores. They could have gone each way. A bounce of ball, refs call things, that's test footy. So finishing a little bit of execution and a little bit of maybe game management and discipline. And so that's been our focus. But also with the intent, just how much we've created. That's the part that gets us excited. We're aligned. We know how our weeks are. It was a massive change for all of us. So, we're in a good spot.
Do those stats give you confidence that you're on the right track? You obviously.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned them.
Yeah. What are the stats that you need to improve? You're top on those
scoreboard,
ones.
But look, and I just think it's the tightest. International rugby is as tight as it's ever been in its history. There's 1 score games. The top 8 all can beat each other. Look, you can look at Italy and Argentina. A couple of scores just recently, but other than that, on their day, a lot of their players play in the top 14. They play together. They've come through at their age groups together. They play in the same team in their comps, or they're playing for Toulouse, or been in a top club up in Europe. So they're coached really well. So Test footy is as tight as it's ever been, and that's a great challenge. That's why you look at it. You're going to be tested every test match. Tier 1's extremely strong. Tier 2, on their day, can come through and still, if they get everyone available, and that's what normally happens around World Cups, so just as tough to beat as well. There's lots of challenges, but great opportunities as well.
On a personal level, you obviously had 7 years with the Crusaders, unrivaled success. From, I guess, a pure coaching point of view, how different was it, Super Rugby to international, how you prepare your week, the intensity of it? I guess Super Rugby is more of a campaign, where Test Rugby is very week to week. How different was it?
Yeah, look, the thing is, because we came in, everything was new change of calls and new stuff and everything. It took a while to, just when you embed something, when you learn, like, just instinctively you move before the call. It takes time to listen to a call. What is our call? Where we're going to go? And if someone just yells out blast or whatever the word is, where do I have to be? And it took us a couple of, and even though the moving before it's actually been said, because they're instinctively understanding where to go. So it took us that period of time to go, and during our weeks, getting the balance of the week, the intensity. We're away 120 days, 21 hotels. She's on. So how do you get the balance of the week? You spend a lot of time with your leaders. You're making sure you're managing to get the best out of them. Their energy levels are high, but you're still giving them what they need from a rugby point of view and culturally. Yeah.
The theming element's a big part of you and your coaching Super Rugby with the Crusaders. You had the Rumble in the Jungle.
Yeah.
I think there was the Melbourne Storm one, and there was a Seventh Heaven.
Yeah.
With the All Blacks, what was that like? I think there was a Together We Walk, and maybe on the end of year tour, looking to create something around the Invincibles. What was that like? Did it work? Can you give us any insights as to what sort of themes you tried to bring?
Yeah, well, I'll talk about the ones you mentioned at the end of the year. We used the Invincibles, the incredible tour that they had, and away for 9 months, I think it was, after a hell of a boat trip. And we just wanted to show respect. One part of the thing around the theme is entwined the legacy and the people that have walked before us and what they've done, how they left a deep imprint so we can, and what we need to do it. So, the theme for the end of the year tour was embrace it. 5 games, 14 games, the most in a test season there's been, and how do we create a togetherness so that we take this on. Ireland haven't lost at home for a number of years and 19 test matches, and Twickenham's Twickenham. Then you go to France with probably one of the best shows he's been in footy, and how do you embrace that, and how do you come all in, because that's what the Invincibles were. So look, we tied a little bit of the theme around that just to make sure we're bringing the past, the present, and what imprint we want to leave for now. Got some good buy-in. The boys still talk about it, and just to learn the stories of what they went through was a big part of how we tied it in.
Got a couple up your sleeve for this year?
Yeah, always. So I think just I'm a natural storyteller. Enjoy that side of the game. Connects, puts pictures in people's heads so they start seeing before they do something what we're trying to achieve.
We'll look at 2025 in a moment or two, but Mark, I guess where do you see New Zealand rugby at the moment? Is obviously the Ineos saga, which is unplayed recent times, is questions about, I guess, revenue streams and everything like that. So New Zealand rugby, as it heads into 2025, you mentioned the big 5 years coming up. Where do you think the state of the game is in New Zealand?
Well, look, we're really optimistic about the future. We've been really clear about that, and already in this year, we've talked about Super Rugby already, and some of the work coming to fruition that we've talked about on the field. We're seeing some amazing signals throughout the community game, and some constant initiative and leadership that we're playing into the community space. We're kicking off some new initiatives at the moment. As it relates to the business of the sport, we still remain incredibly optimistic about the strength of our organisation and brands, and I think that's probably one thing raises when he talks about what's been new. It's the insights he's gotten to being offshore with the team and seeing the connection that we have to different organisations and fans around the world, and that really provides the basis for us to continue to grow. So, you mentioned Ineos. We've been really clear that we believe in the position we have around that issue really strongly, but at the same time we are obviously having conversations about other future partners or growing existing partnerships, and those conversations are going well as well. So look, there's certainly some work to do this year. We've been really clear around that we want to have a look at the model, the overall model for the game and the system in New Zealand. We've never had more revenue. We're well north of $350 million per year in the game now. So we believe that should form the basis for creating a model where we can invest in all of the right areas, be more aligned as a game to recognise the purpose of each stakeholder within the system, and create a model that everyone can live with, in the near future. All while we continue to build the business case for growing revenue, where we see on an everyday basis where there is potential and really believe in it.
The broadcast negotiations arguably the biggest ticket item in the game. How's that going? And I guess specifically around the zone, do you see them as a genuine player? Do you expect them to lodge an offer to create some competitive tension there?
Well, we can't talk about that, Liam, but I love the fact you tried. So
God loves a try.
Look, I'd say what I said before. We really believe in the product. We believe in the future calendar. We believe, having just got back from London, where the quality of the international game and the new competitions is going, we believe there's more storytelling and star power and the key personalities in the game, be they players, coaches, whatever they may be, men's, women's. We just think the future of the sport is really exciting, and we think, when you step back and you look at the history of our sport by comparison to others, we're very, very young on this journey of professionalism in our sport, and we're really living through the next iteration of that right now. So some of these things take time, but it's clear the more time you spend in some of those different environments, there's a lot to be optimistic around.
The Nations Cup coming in next year, the South African Tours, the Club World Cup, which is on the horizon, I think still to be signed off. But is this the biggest change for rugby since it went pro? Just all these new elements coming into the game?
as in terms of calendar
just
and competitions.
Just calendar and competition, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're really proud of the work we've done in this space. We've played a key leadership role in a lot of those competitions you mentioned, and that alongside the work we've done on the on-field product means that I think there's clear signals we're listening to the fans here. We know the players are really excited about it. I think when Razor thinks about, a long tour to South Africa, excitement, and then, geez, this is new and different, there's a couple of deep breaths that come in there. But
you guys are coming, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Have you got a spreadsheet sort of sorted of how many players you might need?
100 staff. No, you'd slip in.
If you need a couple of players for a warm-up game, Liam and myself might be able to help out.
Okay, get your health check first.
So yeah, I mean, overall, we think it's, as I said earlier, this sort of culmination of a lot of hard work coming together to mean there's really exciting future in that area of the game.
Right, just picking up on something Mark said before about personalities in the game. You're a character, you got a personality. Has there been an adjustment living in the bright spotlights? Have you had to adjust at all, or do you feel like you can be authentically you?
Oh, look, I've always been myself. I think it's mum and dad taught me that growing up, and always put it in me to make sure that you can be yourself. One thing is being a public figure, you can get public feedback. And that's the great thing. You've actually got to embrace that, because if you've got somebody in the queue at the supermarket, and she's someone's granny's that someone's kids played, and I watched them, and you should have picked him, and everyone's a selector because they're allowed to be, and this is great, and someone will give you a wee snipe, but that's part of the role. And so it's now you're in the country figure or a public figure. You just got to accept it and realise that they care. They're saying it because they care about the game, and they've got an opinion, and they're a part of it. So that's a real honour. That's how I see it. But everything you say or do, there's always a potential. Someone's always got another angle on it. Like you genuinely want to do something in good intent, but you're doing it for this reason, and that's your guys' job, isn't it? You guys are going to find an angle and dig a hole in it, and you accept, and that's part of the role. Yeah. Just
on that theme, I guess, in terms of personalities, do you think rugby could sell its personalities better? But it is, I guess, hard as well in a media landscape where things can be skewed. But I guess if you look at global sport, America in particular, they project and sell their athletes and their personalities really well.
Well, I think, again, we're on a bit of an evolution in this space, aren't we? And I think you'd have to agree that over the last few years, we've certainly been more open and accessible in a lot of our environments. But there's a real constant sort of tension in this space, and that New Zealand Rugby and our All Blacks and Black Ferns have always been founded on team first and what's best for the team, what's best for the country, what's best for the organisation. And we're just seeing this evolution to the fact that players, they want to have voice, and we want to embrace that, the fact that there are issues, there are topics they want to maybe be more open about, and we have to find a way to embrace that and evolve as a sport. So it doesn't happen overnight, we hear that feedback too, the reference to the US sports and that sort of thing. But they're, as professional sports, they're decades old, they're, probably centuries old in some regards of professional sports. So we're sort of on a path that we really believe in, but sometimes that just takes time.
I was just going to bounce around a wee bit, going back to the rugby's greatest rival. We talked about South Africa. That's going to be a great, fantastic tour. I think there's going to be 4 tests, and a bit of debate about where that fourth one is going to be. Are you going to give us a Rugby Direct exclusive today and tell us whether we're going to Twickenham or the States for that 4th test?
I definitely would, if only I knew, Liam. So, we're still working on it, and look, we'll just sort of reiterate just how excited we are about the concept. So, look, when we can share and announce more formally, we will, but the work's heading in the right direction.
You were both in Europe recently for Shape of Game meetings and seeing the Six Nations. What did you both glean about the shape of the game globally and where it's heading to at the moment?
Yeah, from a From a laws part of it point of view, it was really good just to see how they run it. Essentially, a short version is there's not going to be too much variation, so we can be consistent and solidify what's been done, so we can get really good at it. It's good for the public, good for the players, good for the coaches and all stakeholders to make sure and the game is in a good state. Ball and play. It's creating that fatigue, the game's rolling, people are more engaged. So that side of it, they've always, they covered off the TMO, the foul play stuff, the innovations, the processes and protocols that go on with that as well. And probably the big thing was, the working part was the networking. It was a great chance for sit down with Andy Farrell, watch the England-Scotland game with him, and he's obviously there with the selection point of view. And so we had in the corner there, so it was quite nice just to sit down and spend a bit of time with him and understand, his approach to the Lions tour.
As we record this, we're on the cusp of the final Six Nations weekend. What have you made of the competition and seeing it up close, over the last few weeks?
Oh, good footy, great ball and play, a lot of tries off offloads. The quality of the kicking's been superb, but just teams just playing, tight matches, every anyone can sort of win it for long periods of time, and now it's come down to the final weekend, so it's everything you want out of a comp. So yeah, it's great quality.
Put you on the spot here. There's the World Rugby rankings. Can you give me your top 5 world rugby rankings of Test nations?
Can I say what they are?
Yeah, no. Your version.
No, you can't, because there will be a headline and someone's going to be upset, and it's probably the guy beside me.
Mark, what did you make about the shape of the game and where it's at from a global perspective?
I think Razor's covered off really well that on-field component. So what I'd add is just the way that's feeding into the future of competitions and calendars, as I've spoken about a few times already today. So, look, the Nations Cup, we took another step forward. There are a number of meetings around that. And, look, we're only, July next year, so we're only, 13 or 14 months until we get into that now. So real momentum starting to build around that. So that was positive. And as Razor's also said, it's the networking, it's the opportunity to be in the same proximity as leading coaches, leading high performance people, commercial partners, other CEOs, and a whole range of different settings that really makes that time valuable. And, we do spend a bit of time offshore, obviously, and people often ask questions about that. But when you see around where the future of the sport and growing value in the sport is for a relatively tiny country like New Zealand, as isolated as we are, we have to be having a presence in some of those key markets. And outside of the UK and Europe, obviously Asia and North America, with what's coming up in the future around World Cups, are other areas we've talked about. So a lot of meetings talking about the next 5 to 10 years of the sport and how we can play a leadership role in advocating opportunities in those markets. And by the same token, helping create value so that ultimately we can invest back in the game at all levels here. And I think that's missed sometimes. People see either the All Blacks or myself in different parts of the world. This is ultimately to grow value, to invest, to make sure New Zealand rugby stays strong and the game can be fostered at all levels. That's all we're trying to achieve here. And so where you see us invest into, I was in Kaitaia yesterday, great session with Northern Rugby, and they're doing this amazing little development up and around one of their grounds there as a regional academy in that area. That's only been possible because of the revenue growth we've had in New Zealand Rugby and the ability to invest into some of those initiatives. And that's happening, believe it or not, that's happening around a range of lots of little different areas in the country at the moment, which is really heartening for us.
Scott, if we look ahead to 2025, I guess your coaching team had a few changes last year. How did they learn and grow and evolve, and is that settled for this year? Going to stay the same?
Yeah, yep. It's a group that we had the end of the year tour to probably just start to implement a bit of a DNA how we wanted to play the game, and had the ball in their hands for long periods of time and put a lot of pressure on teams. So that will continue. Like I said, you look at the trends, you look at how oppositions play, you look at the French, because that's who we're playing next, and you see the opportunities, but also the threats. They're going to bring a hell of a team out. Fabian Giltey has been there 7 years. He knows his way around the rugby world. He's got a really good deep squad, 40-odd players that all could play Test football. There's enough experience, enough cohesion. And, people say, oh, what sort of team? They're going to they're going to bring out a good team, and their season finishes their final of their top 14 finishes a week later because of the Olympics. That's just the way the season's gone. But they'll bring them, we expect them to bring out the Intermax and the Pinots and whoever is in that final.
You reckon they'll come? You reckon, because there's been talk about obviously a B team, but you reckon the top players will come down to New Zealand?
Yeah. I think it's you have to have that mindset, don't you? Otherwise, we know we've learnt last year. You never assume anything at Test footy. You're one card away, a couple of penalties away from being in the corner, and then your games change really quickly, and the quality and the depth, especially in the French squad from the 20s that have come through. So what he's done in the last couple of summers of their summer tours, he's taken a group of players that haven't been in their finals, but they're playing now. Bill Bodie and Villiers and all those guys are coming through. Gilibert, all of them can step up. You look at with Dupont went off and Lusu came on, and wow. So the depth and quality is there. It's going to be a hell of a Test series. It's the last time we'll get probably 3 games in one country. A true series in that regard over the period of time. So we're expecting the best of them.
Geordie, you talked about him earlier. Is he going to be available for that French series, or you look to maybe get him back to New Zealand and rest him up?
Yeah, look, it depends how deep it is. Part of it was him to be available for sure. Right. That was part of the deal. That's why it worked so well. And how they'd get looked after. And obviously got some really good centres in Leinster. And just the way it works with their final for the URC, he'll definitely come back and be available. How
do you balance, I guess, this, because this is going to be a second year, obviously, selecting on form versus reputational players that have done the job for you previously in an All Blacks jersey? What's the balance that you look for as a coach?
Good question. Current form is important. And... Look, you still know the class that's going to be there, and some guys step up at Test footy consistently. Doesn't matter if they're playing here, Japan, or come back from overseas. They've just got the ability to step up really quickly. But a little bit on four-man combinations. So look, but as this year's come on, it's chucked up some great young potentials and names, and some players that have been around a while. So, and that's good. That's what we want. Around the ability to make it as tough as we possibly can and be consistent each week and players are doing that, so it's a balance of the two.
How much do you live in the now, and how much do you plan ahead when obviously the World Cup's big ticket item? We talked about Richie Mo'unga, but there's others like Lester Whanganuku's coming home next year. So what's the balance between living in the now and thinking, where do I have to be in 12, 24 months time?
Yeah, great. So your squad, so if you look at 27, because you have to, and there's no development time for me. One of the only teams really that in World Rugby that, developments, you win and develop. And, I learned that through the 20s, you don't develop and win it. So you have to have the balance of the two. And that's a real art. That's a skill, giving guys opportunities, but having to win the test match in front of you. The season last year there was a balance of the two, and look, we've had 10 debutants this year. If we get 4 or 5, and the next 2 years you start to solidify your group. There's always bolters, there's always opportunities, I want to make that really clear so I don't shut any doors. But then you build the cohesion and understanding, and teams that have to go through tough tours, tough tests, and build relationships and cohesion so they know how to win, game manage together. So then you start to solidify the group at the back end.
Just in terms of that selection, stop me if I'm wrong here, but how much does it evolve week to week? Because my sense is that the loss in Wellington to the Pumas, the following week at Eden Park, you may have been given guys more opportunities had you not lost that test. So is there that sort of swing in a week? Results have a big factor in selection? They can do.
Like that's a prime example. I think you're right. There probably would have been some more opportunities, but Eden Park's so dear to us. It deserves the honouring of our best test team for that week. And as I said, like Argentina were good, and we had, 6 bodies come back the next week too, which helped. So, you all of a sudden you get a bench, and things. You get a depth in your squad straight away, and you've got to respect the team that you're playing in, and also the beautiful place of Eden Park.
You mentioned Eden Park, September the 6th.
Yeah.
How much are you looking forward to that test already, the Springboks coming to town?
Yeah, great opportunity. It's on the line, isn't it? Those are the ones you want to play in, and those are the ones that get rugby, or everyone excited about. So yeah, it's definitely on their calendar. It's exciting.
We've seen the Springboks use a 6-2 and a 7-1 bench. We've seen France go with it as well, 7-1. Any chance we see the All Blacks go a 7-1 bench at some point under Scott Robertson?
Well, it's in the laws. So people say, the first thing you got to clear is, is it right? Well, it's right because in the laws you can do it. And the way teams play, especially now, and the fatigue that comes in the games, the forwards, the impacts, the contacts that they have are so high. So they've got the immediate effect on the game, and especially after half time. And, when you can bring in an extra loose forward, it makes a massive difference to it. Yeah, so you look at it, we've considered it ourselves. We believed it wasn't quite, was a quite weak for it, but look, it's working, and they're innovative, and you've got to keep an eye on that trend. So it's definitely an option.
One smoky out there at the moment for you both, Kalen Ponga. Any sense that he may come over and have a crack at rugby in the next year or two?
Oh, you're ahead of me there, mate. I'm not. I'm not across. Our team may be, but I haven't seen that. Don't know if look. Obviously, he's done it. A few years ago as well. He's obviously showed us time and interest. But if he comes to us, we'll have a conversation. You always do. Always keep the door open. But he's a hell of a player, isn't he? And if he shows interest, there could be a conversation if it gets to that.
What about more broadly, I guess, about the NRL converts in rugby union? We've seen Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, Joseph Suialii, Sonny Bill Williams back in time. What's your view about whether it works and maybe how long a successful transition would take?
Yeah, good question. Traditionally, the backs or outside backs that come over, especially... or even you look back in, the Lote Takiri days, don't you?
Wendell Saylor,
Rogers, Matt Rogers, and those sorts of guys. Like they've got a role, defend the last or second to last on the wing. So they've got incredibly great ball carriers, good defenders, tacklers. But the defensive stuff on the edge, those are the ones that made the transition. So you look at Sonny, they did great. So everyone's different. Firstly, different skill sets. Sonny, when he came over, he was still in his early 20s. He'd gone through Toulon. He had a great period of, he was mentored by Tana. He had a period of time where he learnt the game, because you've got to learn the game if you've been out for a period of time. And then how quickly can you transition? The great thing is for him is, because he was long levers, he was a big man, he could get his arms free, just carried hard, got his shoulders through the line and had a good offload. So he came to a great club and well coached with Dave Rennie and the Chiefs, and all of a sudden he was fast tracked. So everyone's going to be different how quickly you come through, but probably the best ones and the best transitions have got a multi-skill set, and it's up to them how quickly they transition.
JK, Mark Ellis, they went the other way. Do you think you two could have had a crack? Rugby league?
Well, I did play a little bit when I was growing up and had a couple of offers along the way, but it was...
Who came calling?
Oh, I wouldn't go there. That's another... Jeez, I'm more in trouble. But I think you look at their game and you learn a lot off it. Look, rugby follows a lot of the trends in league, with the way they defend. If they, back in the day where they're shutting, now they're coming off and getting in passing lanes, and league defence, speed, leagues attack. So you spend a lot of time looking at them and you admire it. But our game too is so innovative and we're, a lot more kicking and stuff in it as well. But we can learn off each other. But yeah, definitely a back rower. Yeah.
As we wrap this up, guys, final question for both of you. For Razor, what does success look like for the All Blacks in 2025? And for Mark Robinson, what does it broadly look like for New Zealand Rugby success in 2025? I'll let you decide between yourselves. Who goes first?
Oh, look, I've spoken to a few other things through the interview, Elliott, but we've got a big focus this year on the opportunity to look at our model, the overall model and system and sustainability of the game. So we're looking forward to taking the opportunity to work with stakeholders and partnering to grow that. That's really important to us. Clearly on the field, it's a big year with the Black Ferns in terms of Rugby World Cup 25. It's our pinnacle event this year. And then we've just talked a bit or a lot about the All Blacks this year and the opportunities they have. It's just an incredible schedule, domestically and internationally. We haven't touched on the Chicago game today, but selling that well in that market that quickly is phenomenal. So there's lots of great opportunities on the field with our teams and Blacks. And then at the community game, as I said, we've got just loads of really good innovation coming into that space we're excited about. Some really good signs in the last 2 years. We've had consecutive significant growth in some areas of the game, which we're really positive about as well. So yeah, look, if you sort of if you chunk those areas up, there's clearly winning on the global stage. There's community and what's dear to us there and growing that, and there's our model. And part of that, I guess, the final point would be continuing to grow our commercial reach and our digital reach, because that's the basis for growing value in the game and being able to reinvest back into it. So along the way, there's some real key measures in what we do there. So there's always heaps on, guys, but we're equally passionate about our areas and what we're trying to achieve and looking forward to the year.
Yeah. Obviously with the Black Ferns as well, they're a bit to do with Alan Bunting. One way I've set it up, everyone's aligned with another team in black from the coaches. So, with Alan Bunting and the Rugby World Cup with them, so all the best, we watch from afar and connecting, so how exciting is that? Learn a bit off them as well, you always do. Success for us is actually keep creating, but finishing and executing, with both sides of the ball. It's really critical, and just keep stamping our DNA on the game. Keep being trusting ourselves and being brave and playing some good footy, and then we'll get results.
How important is that? Just lastly, that you do have the faith and trust and confidence to stick with what you want to do and not follow others or bow to pressure or results. But if it doesn't work, have the faith to stick with what stylistically you want to do.
That's the balance of it. You still got to have people that challenge your thoughts on it, but you still got to go back to the identity piece. That what am I going to stand by here? What's really important to us? Make sure you have metrics that keep on top of it, and someone on your shoulders will just keep reminding you. You're either doing a good job, or you could do this a little bit better, like you guys.
That's a great note to leave it on. Mark Robinson and Scott Robertson, thank you so much for your time on Rugby Direct. It's been a great discussion. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Cheers.
Cheers for that.